Okay, the time's 1 o'clock and we're back from recess. Rhonda, will you please take a roll call?
Commissioner Buck?
Here.
Commissioner Schroeder?
Here.
Commissioner McDaniel?
Here. All right, welcome. The first item we have up here today is to set a hearing date for the Pine Ridge Metropolitan District Service Plan.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Per the requirements of state statute, the Board of County Commissioners needs to set the hearing date. We are requesting that hearing date be June 25th based on the public notice that the applicants have done for that Metro District Service Plan.
Is there a time associated with that posting?
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any objection?
Just a quick question. Does that conflict or adjoin any of the other meetings we have scheduled late in June? I know we have a...
Potentially based on if meetings continue beyond a couple of hours, but we can still accommodate that because that is your regular meeting date. Okay. And I have spoken with the applicants, and if the board chooses not to actually have the hearing that day, you could continue it on that day as long as we go ahead and set the date for the 25th.
Okay. Commissioner Schroeder, you good?
No, that's what we got to do.
Okay. All right. All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we set the hearing date for the Pine Ridge Metropolitan District Service Plan to be June 25th, 2025 at 1 p.m. in this room. Is that where we're scheduled? Is in this room?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Second.
All right. All in favor, aye?
Aye. Aye.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is, well, wait just a minute. I need to get a motion to open a public hearing on SUR 2024-7211. Is there a motion?
Sure. I'll make a motion that we open the public hearing for Stonewall Bed and Breakfast and Events, SUR 2024-7211.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Turn it over to you, Jennifer.
All right.
Or Danny, sorry.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Danny Klebanner, and I'm a land use planner here with Elbert County. The case I will be presenting first here is Stonewall Bed and Breakfast and Events Special Use by Review, and that is case number SUR-2024-7211. All right, to get started here, the location of this project is 7211 County Road 98, and that is in Elbert, Colorado. The site size is about 1.5 acres, and the current zoning is residential 1. The request here is for a special use by review for a bed and breakfast that will also host weddings as the primary event. A bit about the project timeline for this. It began in June of last year, June 12th, with a pre-application meeting. There was a community meeting August 5th of 2024. The first referral was in December from the 10th to the 31st, and the second referral from February 5th to the 25th. And all noticing complied with Elbert County zoning regulations requirements for 14-day advance notice, with a newspaper notification published in Ranchland News April 17, mailed radius mailing for a quarter mile on April 19, and a public notice sign posted on the subject property April 17 of 2025. We had our planning commission meeting for this on May 6th. Here's a view of the whole county, and that little blue circle is where the location is, just outside of the community of Elbert. We'll zoom in here and get some more detail on the property. As you can see, it's right outside of Elbert, just north. It's about 12 miles southeast of Elizabeth, 10 miles southwest of Kiowa, right outside of the town or community of Elbert. So the subject property here is shown with that star. It's 1.48 acres and is currently zoned residential 1. Historically, the land has been used as a church and as an auto repair shop. There are 2 properties, both owned by Harmony Land and Cattle, and over 300 acres that neighbor this special use. Here's an aerial of the property, again, zoned R1, and it has a historic church building, residence, and accessory buildings. There's no floodplain on the property, no wetlands on the property. This special use will be accessed through County Road 98, and there is an agreement in place with the neighboring property for parking. The access to the parking lot must be built up to Elbert County Public Works standards. Here we are moving a little closer, and you can see that kind of elongated property in the front is the church, next to the garage there off to the right, and then the primary residence is behind that. Here's a street level view of the church on the property. It's called the Sacred Heart Church with Gothic Revival architecture. So getting into the project summary, this request is for a bed and breakfast that will operate year-round. The employees are the property owners. The 2-story house and cottage will be used to serve bed and breakfast guests. And the other request is special events, weddings, with the primary season being May through October, although it is a year-round special use. Hours primarily 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. The employees would be the 2 full-time, the owners, and 1 to 2 part-time for weddings, event setup, tear down, etc. There would be 120 guests maximum for any event, 75-person average expected. Again, the parking would be in the adjacent lot for events, and no parking would be allowed on County Road 98. The applicants will use portable bathrooms and bulk water to serve the weddings. Here's a look at the property with some different features highlighted here. In yellow, those 2 structures will be used primarily for the bed and breakfast, the 2-story residence, and then a cottage built off to the side. And then in purple, those buildings would be primarily for the weddings and events. Again, there's a gravel parking lot with 36 spaces on the Harmony Land and Cattle property. Just to the west there, Sacred Heart Church has a 120-person capacity, and the commercial entrance is required and would be permitted by Elbert County Public Works. The applicants recently installed a cistern to provide water for the special use. The existing well will not be used for water supply. The shed shown on the previous picture would be their photo booth area. 3-car garage would be the dining and dancing area. So this bed and breakfast special use was sent on its first referral again from December 10th to the 31st of 2024. The applicant responded to all relevant comments. The main revisions included updates to the exhibit, parking plan, and the infrastructure to support the special use. The second referral was from February 5th to the 25th and was limited to Elbert County Public Works, Public Health, and the Division of Water Resources. The applicant finalized plans for access, water, and sanitation for the special use, and we'll get into a little more of that as we go. Public comments, there was 1 resident at the community meeting, and they had concerns about the application process in general and a potential zoning change. We let them know that this does not impact the zoning, and no public comments have been received following the community meeting phase. There was 1 public comment during the Planning Commission meeting, but that was it. For the Planning Commission discussion, the Planning Commission recommended approval on a 6-to-1 vote, and they recommended conditions to notify the county about changes. 1 commissioner voted against, this project because the cottage was not permitted as an accessory dwelling unit, but this will not be used as a standalone dwelling unit, just used for the special use. The recommended conditions were that the applicants notify the county if there's changes. So currently, the recommended conditions include notifying the county about the parking lease, and if it were to ever end, the Planning Commission recommended that there be a requirement that they notify the county. They're also using bulk water, but there's possible plans to connect to Elbert Water and Sanitation District. If that were to change, they recommended that the applicants notify the county. And the third is that they will be required to share receipts for porta potties or whatever type of bathroom they use for the special use and provide those to Elbert County Public Health. And basically, if something changes there, the Planning Commission, again, recommend that the applicant notify the county. So Elbert County has these criteria for all special use by review. The first is that the use is in harmony and compatible with the surrounding area. This special use by review will revitalize a historic church building and allow the public to access this unique Elbert landmark. The Sacred Heart Church and its Gothic Revival architecture will be a main gathering place for the weddings. This special use is located outside of the community of Elbert, and its distance serves as a buffer to the town. The business fits well with the agricultural and residential mix in the area, providing a gathering place close to town but far enough from neighboring residents that potential noise from events is not a primary concern. B, no undue burden on infrastructure. This use will not have undue burden on infrastructure. Elbert County Public Works Department reviewed the application and had no objections. The leased parking area will eliminate parking on County Road 98. Entrances to the parking area and to the property must be built up to Elbert County Public Works standards. C, the use will not unduly increase traffic congestion or burden the existing road system. The Road and Bridge Department foreman reviewed the application and had no objections to the special use. It should not increase traffic congestion or burden the existing road system. D, the use will not significantly cause odor, air, water, noise, or light pollution. The uses proposed are not believed to cause significant forms of pollution. The applicant will end weddings between 10 and 10:30, will limit lighting to what is necessary to navigate the property, will use bulk water and bottled water to serve customers of the B&B and event guests, and limit smoking to designated areas. E, all sanitation requirements will be met. The Elbert County Public Health Department reviewed the application, and the applicant provided up-to-date information for their on-site wastewater treatment system, the OWTS, and provided an additional soils report for a potential new proposed system. Until the new OWTS is built, the applicant will use portable bathrooms and provide receipts of the portable bathrooms to Elbert County Public Health for each event. F, the use will be adequately landscaped, buffered, and screened. There are no new buildings proposed, and the neighborhood is familiar with the historic church, though it has been unused for some time. The use will not be detrimental to health, safety, or welfare. There's no real impacts to the health, safety, or welfare of the area with this proposal. And H, supplemental standards are met. There are no additional supplemental standards for this project. So, based on the review of the approval criteria found in Elbert County Zoning Regulations Article 3E5 and the findings in the staff report, The Planning Commission recommends approval with conditions for the Stonewall Bed and Breakfast and Events special use by review. Here are the conditions of approval. The applicant will be required to remove the public hearing signs within 7 days of a decision here by the Board of County Commissioners. The special use by review will not become effective until all fees are paid, conditions of approval are met, and the special use by review exhibit is recorded, and recordation of all appropriate documentation to occur within 180 days of Board of County Commissioner approval. The applicant will retain receipts for bulk water purchases and provide these receipts when requested by Elbert County staff. And again, notify the county if a new water line is installed or something changes with the bulk water purchasing. 5, the applicant will construct access to the property and parking area that meets requirements of Elbert County Public Works and notify the county if the parking lease ends. 6, the applicant will provide copies of portable restroom receipts to Elbert County Public Health for each event and notify the county if a new on-site wastewater treatment system is installed. And there was one other condition that was removed, and that included building the cistern for this, but the applicant already built the cistern and provided evidence of that for the last meeting. So that concludes the presentation for Stonewall Bed and Breakfast and Events special use by review. And the applicants are here, and I'm also happy to answer any additional questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Danny, and I'll invite the applicants to the podium for questions from the board. Good afternoon, sir.
Hello, afternoon.
Can you give us your name, please?
Randy Davis and Angela Hack, my wife.
Okay, all right. We'll start with you, Commissioner Schroeder. Do you have any questions, sir?
I do not at this time.
Commissioner Buck?
Yeah, I have a few questions. Just a minute. So it talks a little bit about the hours in the project summary and throughout the document that we have. One of them is, 1 to 10 o'clock. I think that was on the project summary, but it also talked about 1 p.m. to 10 or 11 p.m. So I didn't really get a clear defined hours from the documents that I was reading. People will linger, they'll tend to talk and, and keep things going in a celebration situation. So I was concerned about neighbors. I know it's set off a little bit, but noise carries at night. So my question is, what are the hours going to be? To make a long story short, what are the hours going to be?
So we would anticipate that most people would start arriving to do setup between 1 o'clock and like 3 o'clock. The actual wedding will probably take place closer to 5 o'clock with the dinner at 6 and probably everything winding down about 9 p.m. So the wind down is probably 9 to 10 and everybody off the property except for maybe 2 overnight guests in the bed and breakfast. That could be a bride and a groom or a family member. But we would expect most people to be off the property by 10 o'clock. That's kind of the expectation that we'll set with people. And we don't really want it to go any later than that anyways. Not that we're super old, but we keep thinking 10 o'clock. And we married 3 of our daughters, and even though they got married on property similar to this, believe it or not, people kind of wrapped up. I mean, you're pretty tired by 10 o'clock. The guests are, especially when dinner starts usually at 6. So lots of dancing, but we think everything will be, we're gonna require people to get it wrapped up, but we actually think it'll be done closer to 9 o'clock. But 10 o'clock is when we expect to have almost everybody off the grounds.
Okay, thanks. And the concern was, hey, if it ends at 11, then people linger, they're out there till midnight, that sort of thing. So just a quick question for you. The other one is the parking lease, page 121 of our packet. It's not a long-term lease. It's a year-to-year lease, no expiration date or termination clause written into the lease, other than default or right to sell. But I just wanted to get your thoughts on what happens if you lose that lease. Where do you park? What happens? I know you're supposed to notify the county if you lose the lease, but what happens to the operation? And do you feel comfortable with that current lease?
We would have loved it if they would have signed a 10-year, 20-year lease, but we ran the risk. We don't think, based on the conversations or the emailing back and forth to get that approval, that they're gonna, like, we've given them any reason to ever stop it, because it'll cost us a lot if they stop it. We actually have to take back up the gravel and everything that we put into that area. So we actually put a lot of money already into that space, but we ran that risk if they wanted that land back for some reason, then we would actually use the school parking or the football field parking and shuttle, either have people walk or shuttle, but we're thinking a cool shuttle. It's a pretty small event center, so it wouldn't be like a bunch of shuttle rides back and forth, but the thinking is there's a beautiful school parking lot that we think would love to get a little bit of revenue if we had to use their parking lot, or the football field parking lot. But the hope is we never have to use either one of those two. But that's our backup plan if we ever lose the parking right next to the building.
Okay, I just want to make sure you had a backup plan, and it's good to hear that you do.
Yep, yep.
Let's talk a little bit about the restrooms. I know you are likely going to add a new tank and an additional leach field at some point.
Yeah.
When
hopefully-
are you looking at possibly doing that?
So we've had them out twice. We actually paid the fees to evaluate all the grounds. If we could get it in this summer, it would be great. We're still waiting for engineered plans to determine how long, how wide, where the best area is. Where the existing leach field is at, we think is the best area, but they're looking at a few different spots. Because of where our well is at, that causes a problem of where we can put the new leach field. But anyway, it sounds like the best options might be to rip up the existing one, put in a new state-of-the-art one, possibly reuse the same tanks for that, but we're still working through that. But trust me, we'd rather have that in next month versus next year, because the sooner I can get portable restrooms, even though they'll be fancy ones, the sooner we can get them off the property, the better.
Yeah, the concern was one leach field, one septic with 50 to 100, potentially up to 100 guests. That's a lot of...
Well, that's a
of
great
people on
question. So I talked with the gentleman that owns the company, TBC, I think. I forget who we had come out. They're from Castle Rock, one of the approved vendors on your guys' list. And he talked a lot more about how those rules are set up for a residential property, meaning how many people are taking a shower every day, how many people are washing clothes every day. We're only going to be washing hands and flushing a toilets. Anyway, so he wasn't concerned. We're not really concerned about a water issue because although it sounds like it'll be an issue, there's not people, we don't have 100 people living on the property, but they would use it for a day, so we could go through 500 gallons of water, and they believe that the leach field is good for 500 gallons of water. Matter of fact, that's the cistern size that we actually put in. But their concern is what happens if we had 4 weddings in a row, 4 days in a row? Would it give that leach field enough time to literally disperse the water for 4 days? So I think the best option from all the different people we talked to is put in the portable restrooms until we can figure out how to get the leach field longer or deeper or fatter tubes. Those are kind of the 3 options, and maybe all of them to potentially get in more of a commercial grade leach field, because right now it's set up as a residential leach field.
Okay.
But yeah, we hope to get one of those in real quickly, as well as the water line's the easiest thing. So we did go to the water district, and it sounds like we're waiting for a couple more bids to come back that we could run a water line 1,200 feet from our house and actually tie into the water system right off of 98. So we hope to take care of permanent water and permanent sewage, maybe even this summer. That'll save us some money in terms of the rentals.
Since you're talking about the water, is the well being required by the Colorado Division of Water Resources to be re-permitted?
The well that's on the property's never been permitted, so it's an unpermitted well on the property.
Yeah, it says this well must be permitted as explained below, per the Colorado Division of Water Resources.
If we were to use that water source, but we're probably not going to even do anything with that well. Our biggest thing is probably tapping into the city water, because that meeting went really, or not city, I think it's the city of Elbert owns their own water station. And so our cheapest, best, fast, easiest route, we think, is to tie into their system and not get the well that's on the property permitted.
So that's definitively your plan, is to tie into Elbert?
Yeah. They apparently have a tremendous amount of water at a very reasonable price, and so what's it matter if we're giving them $50 or $100 a month for water versus paying a well service to come out and drill deeper, permit it, all the different things that go into drilling a well versus paying a pretty high quality water coming from the city. And again, they've assured us they've got a tremendous amount of water available to them, so that's probably better than us drilling our own well or re-permitting and all that stuff with the well.
Yeah. Okay,
So it's about $30,000, that's the first estimate to run that line. So it's still not cheap to run a line, it's not cheap to drill a well, but we got a couple of good options for the water.
just real quick, going forward, is the cottage going to be permitted as an ADU?
No, we never plan to have it as an ADU, only for the bed and breakfast. Making this up, but if 20 or 30 people a year stay in that, we'd be pretty happy, either on wedding days itself or possibly outside of wedding days. But, you know, maybe 30, 40, 50 days out of the year that might be used as a overnight rental.
So no requirement from the county perspective on having that permitted?
No, there's no requirement unless it were to be used with a full kitchen and some other things that, you know, aren't required. So there's just a kitchenette and bedroom and bathroom, so we're not requiring ADU permitting for that.
Last question. The fire department had no objection to the project other than potential guests utilizing the basement of the main house.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so Chris walked, I think it was Chris walked the, is that right? Yeah, walked the property at least once with me, and then we've been on some phone calls, but we're not allowing any guests. We do have 5 daughters. They already utilized the basement that we finished out. We did put in egress windows, but they're never gonna be available to the public. So that was his biggest concern. He didn't want anybody even though there's an egress window down there now for our daughters, he just didn't want people going downstairs to the basement, so. No problems there. So nobody's actually allowed on the first floor of our building because my wife doesn't want anybody on the first level, which is a pretty cool level, and nobody's allowed in the basement, so.
Okay,
Got a couple restrictions on the property.
that's all I had, sir.
All right, Commissioner Schroeder, anything else, sir? Not at this time. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Let's open up any public comments. Hi.
Hello,
Could you give us your name, please, address?
Judy Willie, 9490 County Road 102, Elbert, Colorado. All right. So a couple of things about I did speak at the last planning hearing. Had a few concerns. One of my major one was the parking on 98. We have major issues with that hill coming down in. I do see that the sheriff's department, everybody had concerns with that. So what I would like the county to request of the county is that they put no parking signs there so that there is no parking, or give us recourse when we're coming down that hill or during weather that someone can get the vehicles moved. I would also like the county to put in a deadline for the OWTS, the water system. If you read the TBC septic report, it does say if the home truly a 4-bedroom and occupied as such, the tank is sized appropriately, but the field is too small. Again, based on the soil found during the pit excavation, that the home utilizing will be fine, but there is no additional capacity for the church. The bathrooms were added recently to the church. There were no bathrooms in it previously. Also, I would like to point out that it does say that 500 gallons of design flow per event with 48-hour detention time, that the STA would have to be, the leach field would have to be upgraded. It will not sustain that. As a matter of fact, it talks about that leach field being built for 2 bedrooms and that it's sized to the house, not the cottage that was built. I would also request that the county go inspect the cottage. It was a building that was torn down and reconstructed as a cottage without necessary permits. You ask about ADA, as that is also a concern, that the requirements, I believe that's state law, not county law, but that structure was built without the required permitting. So pay the fees and inspections for the cottage and the bathrooms inspected that were added to the church. There was no mention of the cottage in the permitting for the septic. And there is a serious concern about the sewage saturation. And a timeline for this. I know that we stipulate in your recordings a timeline. I would like to see a timeline that an OWTS is completed, and that if there is going to be a well, or if they're going to connect to city, they would need an OWTS. They could connect to sewage and water from the city, that be determined. I think that covers the majority of my concerns. I think that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? Okay, we'll invite the applicant back up as customary to address any of these concerns, if you like, sir.
Do I just respond to some of the questions that she brought?
If you like, it's not necessary, you don't.
I would say that I think I covered most of those already in terms of timelines, requirements. We're moving as quickly as we can to try to save paying the fees for buying the bulk water from the city. That'd be the line, as well as the rentals for the restrooms. So we'll continue to work quickly to try to get those done. So I don't see any of those as a concern. If you guys want to put a timeline, I would guess we'd be fine with that. But even if we take a year to get that put in, which hopefully we don't, we still are using the bulk water. We're still using the portable restrooms, et cetera. So, yeah, I think everything else is pretty well addressed, though.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions by the board? Mr. Schroeder?
There was 6 conditions of approval that were listed. I assume you are agreeable to all of those conditions?
Yes.
And I do agree that most of the questions there were answered, particularly alleviating a lot of the concerns with the portable toilets and the bulk water permitting, and us being notified, I think, is sufficient as far as I'm concerned on those.
Mr. Buck?
What was the parking concern she had about was it on-street parking then was the concern?
One more time, I'm sorry.
The parking concern.
Yeah, good question. There is a ton of people that still park on County Road 98 because there's, it's right by the football field. So even though I know, we originally asked if we could park there, and this was way on in the beginning meetings, and they said no. We didn't think that was fair either because everybody else is allowed to park. But I kind of like her recommendation. We're already thinking, we had asked, I'll think of the name, but the gentleman that's in charge of, call it the roadways, he works with the road department. The name will come to me in a second. He's actually where we go. If we get the approvals here, then we have to get the approval to turn off at 98 into the church. I forget, but it's access off at 98. But I was talking with him about already putting up signs. Never thought about putting up saying no parking, but we wanted people to slow down. So we were going to put signs up on wedding days anyways that just simply say wedding, wedding, slow down. But it wouldn't be a bad idea to add no parking. But I think the concern's a good one. People park on both sides of 98 at all these other events, and it gets really congested. So we do got plenty of parking inside that space, but I think her concern's a good one, which is what if any of our people that were coming to a wedding thought they could, especially if they're locals, they'll probably already think they could park on that street because everybody parks on both sides of County Road 98. So I think that's probably a good idea to figure out, would we add something else to the sign that not only says wedding in progress, slow down, maybe some no parkings. But when I was talking with the gentleman that again, I think is the planning, Jay's his name, he was talking about, I can't leave the signs out there for weeks on end. And I was like, no, we just want to put them up for one day. So we thought we'd go up and down both sides of 98, just kind of letting people know a wedding's in progress. So I think the concern was that even our guests shouldn't be parking on 98, and I would agree. That's kind of a messy road when there's car, and there is. And obviously, we can't stop all the cars that are parked on both sides from all the other events, but we can certainly eliminate it from our event.
So, yeah, one more thing. It was brought up that the cottage was rebuilt without permits. Was that prior to your purchasing the property, or is that something you guys did, or?
We did. There was an existing garage there that looked to me as though it actually had insulation, it had sheetrock. I'm not saying people were living in there, but it could have been somebody's living quarters. Why else would you insulate? Why else would you sheetrock? I'm not saying it was the best of it, but my wife thought it looked really good to just keep the character of it, because it was pretty, and it was good size. And we were going to turn that into the honeymoon cottage or the changing area, but I made it better and bigger, and I did not pull the permits to make it better and bigger and more safe. But I think it's better and bigger and dramatically more safe than what was there before.
Anything else, sir? Commissioner Schroeder?
As far as no parking signs on a county road, I don't know that that would be the responsibility of the landowner. I think that'd probably fall on us. So we can talk with Mr. Hankins and see what kind of regulations we have as far as no parking on county roads moving forward. But I don't know that would be something we could put on a property owner to post on county roads. We would need more. I wouldn't feel comfortable with that anyway.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve or deny.
Well, let's have some board discussion a little bit. I think we need to, in my opinion, is we need to have somebody from the building department inspect that cottage if it was rebuilt without a permit. And no permits were pulled. That's one of the reasons we're relooking at our permit fees and our fee structure and that particular classification of buildings.
Commissioner Schroeder, any other comments? Discussion?
You know the approximate square footage of that?
Comments, further discussion? Okay, sir?
Well, I agree that that's a little problematic. With that, I think perhaps the best avenue moving forward is to continue this for another period of 2 weeks or 4 weeks and give the building department enough time to inspect and come back with a report on that and pull the proper permits.
So do you want to put that in the form of a motion, sir, to continue?
Sure. I move that we continue Stonewall Bed and Breakfast and Events SUR 2024-7211 to, what do you think?
Well, one thing that we have done in the past with existing buildings is require as a condition, because normally the building permit themselves don't go out, but they require a third-party contractor when something is built to inspect and then submit the permit. So I would say a condition could be made that they need to have that building permitted as a condition, and I think that makes a lot of sense.
That makes it a lot easier too.
Yeah.
So I rescind that motion. I'm sure the clerk appreciates that. So I'll make a motion to add another condition of approval that the cottage be permitted and inspected before the events begin at Stonewall Bed and Breakfast.
there a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye.
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 Motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to close this public hearing on 2024-7211.
Mr. Chair, we'll need to vote on the approval of the, or denial.
Sorry?
We just added a condition.
I'm sorry, you're right. Thank you for correcting me on that. So is there a motion to approve or deny?
I thought we had the motion, we just needed to vote.
Our motion was to add another
Condition.
condition, which was approved. So now we need to go forward on whether or not approval or denial of the entire project.
Right.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve Stonewall Bed and Breakfast at Events SUR 2024-7211 with the designated condition.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye.
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 Aye. All right, that's approved. Thank you, Commissioner Schroeder, for catching that.
Now we can,
Yeah, now we'll ask for a motion to close this public hearing on SUR 2024-7211. Is there a motion?
Sure. I'll make a motion to close the hearing for Stonewall Bed and Breakfast and Events SUR 2024-7211.
second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. Next item on the agenda is, well, first of all, let me say, I need a motion to open public hearing on Running Creek Storage EDZ site plan, which is EDZ 2024-3548. Is there a motion to open a public hearing?
Mr. Chair, I'll move to open a public hearing on Running Creek RV storage in the Economic Development Zone Site Development Plan, case number EDZ-2024-3548.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. All right, Danny.
Good afternoon again. This will be a presentation for Running Creek RV Storage, and that is an economic development zone site development plan with the case number EDZ 2024-3548. This project is located off County Road 13. The site address is 35486 County Road 13 in Elizabeth, Colorado, 80107. The parcel is 50 acres and the zoning is Agriculture A with an EDZ Economic Development Zone overlay. The project footprint for the area with the storage is 22 acres, though the storage area is actually much smaller than that. The applicant is CJ Kirst with Tahoe Consulting, and the property owners are Barbara and Daniel Gaudreau. The request here is an economic development zone site development plan for a storage facility with outdoor RV parking. Again, here's a look at the county, and that little blue circle is where this is located, just to the north of Elizabeth. Moving a little closer, here we can see the property with the star there, kind of in the upper center there. Across the street is a commercially zoned business, and surrounding are other agricultural properties. That area with the light blue is floodplain. Here's a look at the property with the shaded box surrounding it, the aerial of the property. You can see Gold Creek, Running Creek there on kind of the triangular shape surrounding where the storage is proposed. Here's a rough sketch of what the storage area would look like, and we'll see some more pictures of it, but it has this long entrance road, about 900 feet to the actual storage area, and then those green bubbles are trees that would be planted. Here's a look at the street view of the property. This is the far south near the proposed gate for the RV storage facility. And here is a look at the storage facility itself. It's zoomed in so you don't see the entire property here, but this is the proposed storage area. Again, so this is a proposed storage facility with outdoor parking, gravel lot. There'd be up to 340 RV parking spaces. 31 15-foot tall evergreen trees are proposed for screening. It's close to Elizabeth, just about 0.6 miles north of Elizabeth. The parking area with the storage would be approximately 406 by 816 feet for the gravel storage area. That's about a 7.5 acre area within this 50-acre property, so about 15% of the property would be storage. There's large setbacks from the front and rear property lines, 800 to 900 feet from the front of the property, the County Road 13 frontage, so big distance, about 3 football fields there. And then over 400 feet from the rear property line where Gold Creek also runs. There's no concerns posed to animal species. This was referred to U.S. Fish and Wildlife, the Colorado Field Office, because this is an area where the Preble's mouse is, but this was already a mowed area used for different ranching purposes, so they were not concerned about impacts to animal species in the area. All right, so getting into the timeline for this project, the pre-application was April 3rd of 2024. There was no community meeting. They're not required for economic development zone site plans. The formal application was submitted December 6th, or 26th of 2024, and there were referral periods from December 2024 to January 25, and then again in March of 2025. A few of the big issues with referral included incorporating a separate 5-acre parcel with the residents into the 45 acres. So that was changed. And then some different traffic reviews took place with our Road and Bridge Department as well as our traffic consultant. All requirements from Elbert County zoning regulations for 14-day advance notice were met. There was a newspaper notification published in Ranchland News May 8th, a quarter-mile radius mailing sent May 13th, and then public notice sign posted on the subject property May 14th. All right, so public comments, we have not received any to our planning office at this time. Again, no community meeting is required. So if there are public comments, today is the first we will be hearing them. And again, here is our referral list. So these agencies were all contacted. Again, the main referral was in January 25. The applicant responded to all relevant comments. The main revisions including combining the 5-acre parcel with the larger 45-acre parcel to match its underlying zoning and other minor updates. The second referral addressed traffic comments and was conducted by Elbert County Public Works, and that wrapped up March 27th. The applicant did address all referral comments and concerns. All referral response letters and resubmittals were included in your packet today. And these agencies listed were all contacted. All right, so moving into our approval criteria for site plans, Article 3H4 of Elbert County zoning regulations lists review criteria A through H for all economic development zone site development plan requests. The Board of County Commissioners are to consider these criteria in their review of the application. The 8 criteria are as follows. Whether the use is in harmony and compatible with the surrounding area. And based on the setbacks and the distance here, we found that it is in harmony. The size and scale of the storage facility is in harmony with the agricultural, commercial, and large lot residential context of the area. The outdoor parking area is reasonably sized, and the property, again, is within the economic development zone. The gravel storage area only comprises about 7.5 acres, or about 15% of the 50-acre lot. Across the street is the Ewing Outdoor Supply Company, an outdoor supply business that stores and sells landscaping materials. Other nearby businesses include a veterinary clinic, a self-storage, a welding company, and a propane distribution business. B, whether the use will not have an undue burden on available infrastructure subject to mitigation. This site development request provided evidence of adequate access and will not require septic, additional fire protection, or electricity. All traffic comments have been addressed. Public Works have no additional comments. Elbert County Public Works and Elbert County Public Health approve of the use, and the existing infrastructure will be able to support this business. C, whether the use will not have an undue burden on available infrastructure subject to mitigation. The applicant provided a traffic letter, which was reviewed and revised and then approved by Elbert County Public Works. The access point to the development must be built to Elbert County road and bridge standards for commercial access. D, whether the use will not cause significant air, odor, water, noise, or light pollution. The impact on the community should be light with little to no additional noise, air, odor, water, or light pollution. E, whether all sanitation requirements will be met. All sanitation requirements will be met. The applicant does not need an on-site wastewater treatment system for this project. Elbert County Public Health reviewed the application and has no objections. There's also an additional retaining area here for water, and just to clarify, none of this storage facility is built within the floodplain. F, whether the use will be adequately landscape buffered and screened. Currently, there is an 8-foot tall deer fence, and the applicant will plant 31 15-foot tall, at least, evergreen trees along the west, which is the County Road 13 frontage, and the south, which is the shared property line with an agricultural property. Again, the storage area will be set back more than 800 feet from County Road 13 and over 400 feet from the rear property line. The nearest residence to the storage area, not on the subject property, so there's residents on the subject property, but the nearest not on the subject property is located about 1,000 feet away to the southwest. G, whether the use will not otherwise be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the present or future inhabitants of Elbert County. The impact to the community should not be detrimental. Staff believe the scale and scope of this site development plan fits within the surrounding context of the neighborhood. Again, it's very close to Elizabeth, so it's not a storage that's kind of in a remote place out of the way. And H, supplemental standards will be met. Supplementary standards are being met for storage screening. An additional 6-foot tall solid fence should possibly be required as an additional condition. And this site plan features an acceptable landscaping plan. So based on the review of the approval criteria found in Elbert County Zoning Regulations, Article 3, H4, staff recommends approval for the Running Creek Recreational Vehicle Storage Economic Development Zone Site Development Plan with the following conditions. 1, the applicant will be required to remove the public hearing sign within 7 days of a decision by the Board of County Commissioners. 2, the site development plan will not become effective until all fees are paid, conditions of approval are met, and the site development plan exhibit is recorded. Recordation of all appropriate documentation to occur within 180 days of the Board of County Commissioner approval. And 4, an additional solid fence at least 6 feet tall and outside of any flood hazard zones should be built to screen the storage areas as well. So that concludes my presentation here for Running Creek RV Storage, EDZ 2024-3548. The applicant is here to share additional details about the project and to answer any questions. I'm also available to answer any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll ask the applicant if you would approach the podium.
Good afternoon, Commissioner. CJ Kirst, Tahoe Consulting. Just in addition to the presentation the staff made, the Goudreau family has owned this piece of property for a very long time, well over 40 plus years. They've operated a tree farm business on it. You can see in the aerial that the tree farm location is essentially right where we're proposing the storage. The rest of the property has been hayed. So it's been a piece of property that's been worked for quite some time. Things have changed, and the model of growing trees has changed a little bit. So they'd like to start this business. It does sit in a very good location in between these two floodplains and set back from County Road 17. We are okay with the conditions of approval. The only thing I'd like to just make more clear is the 6-foot fence condition is only where the current fence, which you can see for Gold Creek, there's a portion of it there that runs in the middle of the floodplain. And I believe that that condition is meant to address anywhere where the fence is inside the floodplain, which would be a very limited area, most likely just in that area. If I can get some direction from staff on that.
Well, either additional screening on that fence would be necessary then, or building a solid fence kind of on the perimeter of this storage facility. Obviously, the section that's in the floodplain, there should not be fence for the screening in the floodplain. That's in our regulations. But based on the nature of the deer fence, it's, see-through screen, it would need additional screening at least, I believe, than the existing fence.
Danny, I'm having a hard time trying to understand exactly where. Can you be a little more specific? Sort of pinpoint you, but I'd like to know more about that.
Yeah. So here is the existing deer fence that runs around here.
Okay.
And it's an 8-foot tall fence that's, it's see-through. It's just like a chain link kind of. And it runs here. So our regulations require a solid 6-foot fence. So either this deer fence would require additional screening, or some additional fencing should be built around the perimeter of the storage area.
Okay. And so if you build that additional fencing, I mean, you're still going to go forward with the trees?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So, Commissioner Schroeder, do you have any questions, sir?
So this fence we're talking about then would just basically be around 3/4 of the property, and the trees would take the place of the fence on the front, on the west side?
Yeah, so the trees could take place for the screening here on the front, but we do require a solid fence to screen storage areas. So they have this existing deer fence, which some of it is here in the floodplain. So having an additional solid fence right around here, if they keep that current deer fence, and then around where this deer fence is over here, providing some additional screening there with the fence.
The property that's just to the west there.
So this is all one property.
Okay, so I'm trying to figure out who we're screening. Our applicant is screening themselves?
So if we look at it, it's our regulation to have solid fencing 6 foot tall around any storage area. So that's what we take from our regulation. So they have this existing fence. If they added some kind of additional screening on the chain link, that would be fine. Or, adding a solid 6 foot fence in areas where there's no fencing. So like along here, adding additional screening with the fence should be important, a condition that we identified.
Okay.
Anything else, sir? So one other question for me, sir, if you don't mind. Or is there going to be any kind of barrier on the ground to keep any type of runoff or pollution, waste, anything like that, hazmat stuff? Somebody leaves fuel or something like that, it spills to get into that creek?
Well, first and foremost, it's going to be a gravel surface. And then the detention pond has a water quality feature in it, which serves a
Okay.
portion of that purpose as well.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Buck?
Sure, I have a couple of questions. You mentioned that you thought it was in a good location. You feel it's in a good location, but at the intersection of two floodplains. Is that a 100-year floodplain, 500-year floodplain?
100?
Okay. So I wanted to ask, it says 15-foot trees, and we have on page 365 in the planning documents, 6-foot trees. I assume we're going to, on the maps, they all had the 15-foot.
We're volunteering 15 foot just because that's what the trees are that are out there currently.
Yeah, 6
Okay,
foot
good.
is required, and the applicant has basically said they will put in 15-foot trees.
So from the tree farm, you're able to move some of those trees around? That's perfect. That's a good idea. I would like to see a pre and post map, if we have, from the letter of map amendment from FEMA, if we have that available.
I don't have the maps available right now pulled up, but it's a relatively small change here on the east side that there was a slight revision submitted by their engineer and approved by FEMA to revise this floodplain map.
The floodplain did extend into our storage, RV storage area. So obviously it was important for us to amend the map.
Well, yeah, and that's a concern of mine. We've had a lot of heavy rains. We've had a lot of flooding. To Mr. McDaniel's point, nothing other than gravel. I think you said there was not going to be a barrier other than gravel for any spillage, waste that could potentially get into the creek bottom right there. That's a, pretty important area.
So just a little background on a lot of the floodplains in areas like this aren't created with the level of detail that we were asked to create in terms of the intervals of contours. A lot of the FEMA floodplains are much larger contour intervals, which means that their tolerance level of where that floodplain limit goes is much wider than what it is in reality. When you look at the aerial, you can see where the floods have occurred. I mean, in our fence line basically is at the top of that bank. Over the years, that hasn't changed all that much. So to get a letter of map amendment approved by FEMA, you have to perform a pretty detailed level hydraulic analysis and we've got 2-foot contours out there. So we're identifying and labeling or representing the current 100-year floodplain based on some very detailed information that FEMA doesn't typically use unless somebody like us has to go through this analysis.
It's just, it's important to me because if this was ever to be inundated with water, there's a lot of potential pollutants versus a resident in one house or, something that could be moved. I mean, these 300 and some spaces, I mean, you're pretty much going to contaminate those river bottoms or creek bottoms if something was going to happen. So it's important to me to ask
Can
those
we go to
questions.
the aerial? I think it'd be helpful to see. I mean, this is something that I think is very obvious when you look at the aerial.
Yeah, I drove by it today at lunch for the second time, and I drove by it and said, it looks like floodplain.
You drove into the property?
No, I drove by it.
Oh, because it's quite a ways back, but I mean, the shade doesn't help very much, but the point I was trying to make is that they've used this tree farm area forever. It's maintained its flat terrain, and it hasn't been washed out. So, not only does our hydraulic analysis identify where that 100-year floodplain is, but, Mother Nature and what you see in the aerials helps.
Can you talk a little bit about some of the precautions? I've seen some of the detention ponds and some of the things on the maps that we were provided with. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Well, it's a multi-stage structure where not only does it reduce storm flows down so that they are equivalent to what the historic rates would be, but it also has a second stage which takes care of water quality. So there's a forebay initially when the water comes into the pond that essentially holds a lot of the water for a very short amount of time and allows the heavier parts of the water or debris or whatever to settle down into this concrete forebay, and then it flows down in a trickle channel and then hits a micro pool, and inside that micro pool there's some very small orifices that prevent things that haven't settled out from getting back out into the creek.
Okay. Let's move on a little bit to traffic. I had some concerns about the traffic and turn lanes. There was back and forth throughout our packet. I think I have written down here that 5 traffic or / engineers have looked at this and are listed in our packet. Now, my question is, did any of them do a traffic count? I see a lot of estimates. I have, comments from them in regards to assumptions and estimates, but did anybody do a traffic count?
There was not a traffic count performed, no.
So we have 5 engineers that have looked at this.
One was
project.
ours.
One was yours, but numerous ones were referenced, including our county engineer. He's one of them. Now, my concern is we have a lot of engineers making a lot of money, but nobody took the time to do a traffic count.
Well, there's a lot of historic data that
There is. I saw
county
that.
provides.
I saw that, and a lot of them were based on assumptions based on the number of spaces in a storage facility. So they generate some trip data from that, the number of spaces at build out. One of the things that I noticed though is your consultant 2N Civil.
That's the civil, that's not the traffic engineer though.
Okay.
Separate engineer.
Well, the reason I bring that up is when I'm going through this, it was determined by these traffic engineers that there was no turn lanes going to be required. But 2N Civil, which is the name of this organization, said in the future, if traffic on County Road 13 increases, turn lanes may be required to allow vehicles to turn without impacting background traffic. So,
Well, I can say there's not one left turn lane on County Road 13. There's a lot of businesses, as Danny referenced in his presentation. Not one of them has a left turn lane. There's majority of the traffic, over 95%, is coming from the south. So your left turn lane would be for southbound traffic coming from the north. I think the peak traffic is like 2 trips. And you need a lot more than that to support a turn lane. And at the end of the day, the county's third-party consultant and the county's engineer agreed that auxiliary lanes, whether they're left turn lanes or XL, decel lanes, just aren't necessary.
Right now. So my job as a commissioner, as far as I understand it, is to look at the future development of this county, present and future. And if the applicant doesn't pay for the turn lane, who does? That would be my question. So let's say, for example, and we all know traffic on County Road 13 will increase. It's not if it increases, it's when it increases, and we all know it will increase. So if we don't do it now, who would pay for it in the future if it was necessary? Because this consultant said in the future, it will be necessary. So that's my question to you. I know what all the studies said. Nobody did a traffic count. So we're all basing this on assumptions. And I actually have a page here that just one assumption after another from DB Enterprise that was referenced in detail. I can read that out. It's about 2 paragraphs, and I don't want to do that, but it's full of assumptions on page 478 to 482 of our packet. And that study was referenced heavily, and they just make a lot of assumptions in there with no traffic count numbers. And then my question to you is, who would then pay for that turn lane in the future? Would that be the citizens of the county? Would that be the applicant at a later date? Would that be, I'm trying to understand how that would work.
Well, you know, I think when you're looking at the background traffic, which is what they base this on, and that is information that is provided through the county's master traffic reports, they do look at extended periods of time, and that in that context does not require any sort of turn lanes. The to and civil letter, I think, was the initial traffic memorandum, and then it was requested that we have a regular traffic impact study done, which is what this DB Enterprises report was prepared for. And so they've taken the background traffic that the county provides. They then take what they, and this is very common, when you have a proposed project, you have to then utilize projected trip counts, which has been done here, and then combine the two, the historic and then the projected, and that combined will tell you if you are needing any sort of turn lanes. And that background traffic is not saying that any time in the future that there's going to be a turn lane necessary.
But everybody references this DB Enterprise study, and it says right here on page 4 of the study, no daily traffic counts have been taken as part of this report. That's concerning to me. And then they go on and talk about how they, this is probably operate at good level, service level. This traffic movement will probably operate at a good level of service. I assumed that 8% of the traffic will occur in the AM, and then later he goes on, I then assumed in the AM that it'll be 60% from one direction and 40% from another direction. I've heard 90-10, I've heard 75-25, I've heard 60-40 from different directions of traffic flow. So a lot of assumptions based on this. So my question again is, who then pays for the turn lane when traffic increases on 13?
Got a lot of businesses that are going to have
the
same problem.
But they wouldn't have had that traffic level, or maybe they weren't forward thinking when they allowed those businesses on 13.
Well, there just is not a lot of trips coming in and out of this type of use. I mean, it's an RV storage.
But they did quote and say in the study from 2 and Civil that if traffic increases.
2 and Civil.
So I hear what you're saying, though, and I'm sympathetic. Right now, there's no need for a turn lane.
It's going to be unrelated to our project.
All those engineers, say, they're all in agreement. Right now, it's not necessary. But they do say, hey, in the future, it may be necessary. So my question is, who's going to pay for that?
Again, the 2 and Civil letter was written before this traffic impact study was written. This traffic impact study was written by a traffic engineer. And so,
Which one, DB Enterprises?
so what they say should be the one that we are referring to.
Okay, I got that one, I'm looking at it.
Okay, so,
And no traffic count has been taken as part of this report.
right, and.
I
we
would have appreciated, out of any of these engineers that looked at this, how come nobody, they're all getting paid a lot of money, how come nobody took the time to do a traffic count?
Because they use background traffic from the county's master traffic comprehensive plan. It's
And how old was that plan?
I don't know.
Neither do I.
I mean, it's current, unless it's been updated, that's the one that we're authorized to use.
It's concerning to me. That could have been 2022, 2018, 2016. I don't have it in front of me. We can pull that up. Can we pull that up and see when that was done?
That report was from 2021.
So not too bad. See if I have any other questions. I don't know if I do. I think that's all I had at this time.
Thank you. I just want to add one comment, sir, that you said there are no turn lanes on 13. There's actually, that I can remember, 5 between 86 and 166 turn lanes on 13. So just want to put that in there.
5 left turn lanes?
Yeah.
Well, there's none,
Directions you
there's
go on.
none from where our entrance is to the north, all the way up to 166, so. I mean, I don't doubt that there's maybe a turn lane for the high school, but all the businesses that are to the north.
Going toward 166, I can think of a couple right off the bat, so. Got a couple.
I'm willing to look at the
argue
area
with you. I'm just making a point that yes, there are left turn lanes for that, so. With that said, are there any other questions from the commissioners? Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Are there any public comments? Yes, ma'am. Yes, I'm Shirley. I'll let you come up here to the podium, please.
I'm Shirley Shepherd, and I'm the managing partner of Shepherd Daughters LLC. And we own the property across the road from this. We own all the land that surrounds the landscape company. And I can tell you, I've been out there fixing fence, or helping fix the fence, for how many times people have run through the fence on that road. There is a lot of traffic on that road. And we've had multiple accidents, fatality down there, that took out a whole lot of fence along that road. And I am not sure that without another lane, that would be a safe road. And I don't want to have to do that again. So you can ask me any question you want to about it. And I can tell you when the floodplain happened, and it happened probably in 1965, and that flooded clear, that creek came up, and it took the whole front of our property, went into that, and the landscape company wasn't there then, it was a private residence. But the flood will, it takes back its natural path. And when that creek, Gold Creek, used to be called Ronk Creek, and it was for a reason. That was a rough creek. And again, we fixed the fence down on the south side that water has taken out. I'm not comfortable having that much traffic along that road. And, you know, if you have any questions for me, I'll be glad to answer.
Year and a half, 2 years ago, when we had the flood on Clear Creek through there, how high up did that water get? Was it 2 years ago we had the flood, a year and a half ago?
Yeah, I came down there and it came all the way up onto the meadow, and I didn't walk it, but I would guess it was probably, by the time I got there, maybe a foot deep. And when it came across, when it came up over the bank, there's a culvert in that, on our property. And when that culvert, it can't handle a major flood, and it comes up over and onto the.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
My name is Roger Burton. I live at 2627 Remington Road, which is in Western Country Ranches, which is accessed from County Road 13 about 2 or 3 miles to the north of this property. I'm here to not oppose the development. We understand that along County Road 13 there's going to be continued development, particularly since it's got an EDZ overlay. And I don't oppose development in general. I do, however, think that development should pay for its own way. What I'm here today for is to strongly recommend to the commissioners that they require at least a left turn lane off of 13 into this property. And further, it would be beneficial to have accel and decel lanes for traffic that's traveling to the north. We've lived where we are for about 8 years, and the traffic, as has been stated, on 13 has increased significantly in that short time. When we first moved here, it was quite rare for us to have oncoming traffic or traffic behind us when we had to turn to the west into our property. At this point, it's a majority of the time we have somebody either approaching or following us, and we have to slow significantly to turn into our subdivision. And there are frequent times when somebody tries to pass on the right, which is a shoulder, to avoid my turning action, or they're coming at such a speed that they about take off my back bumper when I'm turning into our road. I will address my comments from my professional background. I'm a retired architect. I've had 50 years of experience. I was licensed in 5 states, worked in 8 different states, significantly in architecture and land development planning. And in my experience, it was very rare that we had any type of large residential, commercial, industrial, or institutional development on a major road that didn't require turning action, turning improvements. So I'd like to recommend that the commission could add a condition that the turning left turn lane and possibly accel decel lanes be added as a condition to this development. When I read about this or saw the sign just 2 weeks ago, we were out of town, but we saw the sign on the property. So we did a little research, and we drove specifically from the high school to Hilltop, County Road 158, which is about 4.5 miles. In that 4.5 miles, there are 43 different street or driveway intersections off of County Road 13, 4.5 miles, 43 intersections. Only 5 of these have any type of turning lane provisions, and only 2 of those include accel and decel lanes, and there is constant traffic on that road. It's interesting to note that on this property, it is, as you travel to the north, it's the bottom of a hill, and there is bus traffic and heavy truck traffic coming in that direction, and the speed limit changes from school zone to 35 to 50 right at the top of that hill. And those large, heavy industrial type and school bus vehicles would have a difficult time to stop if there were a slow-moving turning action into this property. And since the property is intended for RVs and boat and vehicle storage, the turning actions would be slow, at a slow speed. And oncoming traffic and following traffic would have difficulty stopping at that point. So that's my presentation. If there are questions, I'd be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comments?
Hi, my name is Heather Angel, and I have the property just south of this location. This land has been in our family for over 100 years, and we built our house on it, where that house you can see there. In addition to all the other comments, I do have concerns about privacy, security, safety. I think some of the privacy has been addressed with screening and trees and things like that. But as mentioned, I think the traffic, it needs to be considered what that traffic is. It is school buses, it is student drivers, it is the landscape company with their dump trucks, their semi-trailers. So, you know, I see it all day long, and anytime from 8 to 3, when those kids and buses are coming through, it can cause some real concerns. So I also have those same concerns as well.
Question for you.
Yeah.
Your house is just south of that square?
It is, yep,
Thank you.
yep.
Any other public comments?
My name's John Goodrow. I've lived at this, my parents lived at this piece of property. I ran my business out of there. We have been in business, the tree planting business, for 54 plus years. We've been in Elbert County that long. So when you ask who's gonna pay for those roads, we've been paying taxes for a long time in Elbert County. I don't want to argue that traffic hasn't increased. Sure it has. Nobody came to us when they put in a landscape supply place next door. Told us maybe we missed it. But no turn lanes. And you want to talk about traffic going in and out, go talk with him. What I'm doing is minimal to the amount of traffic that goes in and out. It's RV storage. We all know. You put an RV in, you probably don't see the thing for 6 months. This land was bought, it was always to make money. Either it was from hay, growing trees, running our business, whatever it is. State of Colorado took our water away from us, so we can't grow trees anymore. We can't irrigate hay. So I've grown up in this county, I've been around this county. My family has owned a business in this county for a long time. I get the concerns, but we have met every requirement, and I've spent a lot of money and a lot of time going by the requirements that we were told, and we've met those. If we have to meet more, we'll look at it, whether it's feasible or not. But we've been doing this a long time. And I've spoke with all my neighbors, and prior to the meeting, I had no comments from my neighbors. Well, I shouldn't say I talked to them, I didn't talk to the shepherds. I've known most of these people, I've grown up with them, I went to school with them, so I had talked with them, and they all told me, we have no issues with it. And the trees that we're gonna plant are gonna be more like 25 feet tall, not little 6-footers that don't really cover anything. So we're gonna soften it up. And to the resident that lives to the north, me and her husband spoke, I told her I'd even put more trees up if that's what it took, because I get it. I don't love to see it, but I want to keep this land in my family's name, in our name, keep it going. But with my parents getting older and the cost of health care, we're going to have to do something. And if it ain't us building on it, then we'll sell it. That's about the best we can do. We're just trying to come up with different ways to keep a business going and keeping the land. And we're going to do it respectfully. Like I said, all that in the front is hay. We're going to keep that as hay. We have no intentions of doing any more. Just the back part where we used to grow trees, we no longer can. And that was our goal. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Tom Maroney, 109377 North Delbert Road, Parker. I recently moved back to Elbert County. I've known Dallas for a long time. I've been doing land use applications here for 30 years. I can tell you I did the first EDZ application going on County Road 24, and that turned out real good. It was the first one that was approved. Out of any EDZ application that I've seen in this county, and I've seen almost every one of them, this is the best one that they've got. This thing's 800 feet off the road. You tell me what kind of setbacks you have on Singing Hills Road in the DB speed, all the other stuff that they've approved all along there. I know that you guys didn't approve it, but I'm saying when you take a look at how this has been put together and brought forward, and by every single process that was necessary in your regulations, okay? Not what if, could, by, whatever, they've been followed. Now an applicant, and especially an applicant such as this, they've got to be able to rely on what your regulations are. And this follows them. And it's better than anything that's been put out there. He's basically fencing to keep himself from looking at it on the east. But he said he'd go ahead and fence the whole thing. It's so far off the road you wouldn't see it anyway. But those are my comments. I think it's a great application. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other public comments? Sir, you want to come back up to the podium if you don't mind, CJ, unless if you get any, see if the commissioners have any other questions. Commissioner Schroeder?
Well, I more of a comment than a question. I understand the concern Commissioner Buck has on traffic counts, but we won't know the effect of the traffic of this particular project until it's in place. So all the traffic count would do at this point is say what our current traffic numbers are. And using the existing plans and studies, you have to extrapolate out where we're at, but it certainly stands to reason that you can't guess what the effect is going to be on a project that hasn't been approved yet. So I'm not sure how that would help. So if maybe Commissioner Buck can help me understand his concern on traffic count, because I don't know how we count something that's not there yet.
Like I said, on page 4 of the DB Enterprises study, you actually do a traffic count. This one says no daily traffic count has been taken as part of the report. Why not? We're relying on 2021 figures. We all know that traffic has increased. All these engineers, we have 5 engineer consultants look at this, and nobody could take the time to do a traffic count. And they also go on to state, if traffic increases any more, the turn lanes will be needed. So that's kind of where I'm at as far as the traffic count is concerned. Why didn't we do it? It's a simple process, do a traffic count. We based it off a 2021 study. We all know that traffic on 13 isn't going to go down. It's going to increase. And if it increases, we're going to need those turn lanes. So that was mine. I hope that clarifies what you were asking. But I'm just going off of what was in the packet and what the DB Enterprise study quoted. And they made a lot of assumptions in this study that they did. So that's all.
Mr. Schroeder, any other questions or comments, sir?
No, I just don't know how we.
Oh, well, let me finish, Del. So I hate to interrupt you, but when they do their numbers, they're basing the impact on the number of spaces, correct, that are going to be in the facility. So they say, hey, based on this many numbers, and they actually referenced the study done on 166. There was another study done up there, and they used the numbers from the amount of spaces, and they can extrapolate how much traffic that's going to generate. Am I correct, or is that mistaken?
Yeah, that's correct, and I've spoke on this before. The ITE, which is the traffic code, if you will, does not have a designated trip rate for RV storage. They use mini storage, and so the study that was used on that 166 storage project created what they believe to be a fair trip rate based on the mini storage, which I think is like 50% of what a mini storage rate is. And so, yes, we were asked to utilize that trip rate. It was implemented inside their model, and it does, to an extent, rely on the number of spaces. That trip rate is factored against the number of spaces that you're proposing to create the total trips.
Commissioner Schroeder, you finish your
Yes,
comment?
so I just don't, other than what we have before us, how we can extrapolate and guess what the future might be. But the idea that we make an applicant do extra work above and beyond what the engineers say need to be there based on increased traffic from the surrounding area, to me that doesn't quite make sense unless we started charging everybody else extra, which in reality we do. As growth takes place, impact fees are charged for everybody else that goes toward the county to keep the infrastructure up. Now, admittedly, we've got a lot of infrastructure that needs to be kept up, but I'm having a hard time singling one landowner out over all the other others, saying that they're the reason for increased traffic.
And the only other thing I would add, thank you for those comments, the only other thing I would add is that the county has not only their in-house engineer, but they have a third-party consultant, which is very conservative, used to a lot of more of the metropolitan level type projects. And this concern was never brought up by them. I mean, I think to an extent, an engineer bases things on, you know, what they believe to be acceptable. And the way that our traffic engineer went about determining the existing traffic was deemed acceptable by them. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to have a traffic count done. I would venture to say that there's more reports that you guys have looked at that probably haven't had traffic counts done.
Well, so what happens, though, is if the applicant doesn't pay for the development or improvements, it falls on the county. And at some point, we can't just keep eating it. The county can't just keep absorbing these costs and paying for some of this development. There's not a lot of impact fees and not a lot of revenue generated, not a lot of sales tax revenue generated to offset some of the costs that the county's going to have to incur if we're the ones that are going to have to put in turn lanes later on. That's my concern. I mean, I appreciate Dallas's or Commissioner Schroeder's comments in regards to, hey, why are we looking at this particular applicant and we didn't look at maybe the landscaping company across the street years ago? I wasn't sitting here years ago, and maybe they should have asked that applicant and thought forward and maybe asked that applicant that maybe they should have put in a turn lane at that time, knowing that development's going to have to pay its own way instead of pushing it back on the citizens every time.
Yeah, I mean, just to reiterate, I think what some other people have said, we fulfilled all the requirements that were asked of us, and from that, nothing came out of it that indicated that a turn lane was necessary. Your two engineers didn't dictate that.
There's 5 engineers, not just 2, there's 5, unless traffic increases on County Road 13.
Not one of them said it was necessary.
And we're basing it on a 2021 study, and we all know traffic is going to increase on 13. It's a fact.
I mean, if the county had something more current, we would have used it. We used what the county had. We used the trip rate that the county told us to use. The county told us to use the County Road 166 traffic study trip rate. So we're doing everything that...
I know you are, and I don't mean to jump on you or penalize you or the applicant, but at some point, who pays for these improvements? That's my question. Commissioner Schroeder, maybe you can answer that. You don't think that it sounds like it's necessary or what have you, but at some point, who pays for it?
Well, it's a county road, so eventually sometimes the county has to do it if it's deemed necessary. But to say that it was just this one particular parcel that is causing the issue that may need, because of increased traffic, that's where I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around.
So the next applicant comes down, they're not a big enough impact by themselves, the next applicant, but after a while, in aggregate, the county has to put it in. I guess that's how it
I
works.
think if the traffic study determines that a turn lane is necessary, and I've been up here in front of you with lots of projects where turn lanes were necessary, and we agreed to them. Not you, but the commissioning body.
Yeah.
If it said it, we would be doing it. But,
Yeah.
you know, we follow the requirements, and it gives us results, and those results indicated that one was not necessary.
Was the I don't mean to interrupt you, but was the traffic count necessary? If we got all these traffic studies, why, I go back to that, something as simple as a traffic count, who deemed that wasn't necessary? I think a traffic count should have been done.
Apparently, the county engineer didn't deem it necessary.
Okay. Go ahead.
Good. All right, so with that being said, Chair, I think that there's a lot of ifs here. I hear what the residents who live around that area say. I hear what you're saying. What I'd like to do is maybe entertain a motion that we continue this to the next board meeting, which would give us some time to look into these and answer some of these questions to get more specific answers, and then come back.
Mr. Chair, if I may, what specific questions would you like answered?
I'd like to know more about the actual traffic. I want to know about the turn lanes, because there needs to be there's some discussions there that need to be addressed. I would have talked to some of these engineers myself as well, because quite honestly, I'm riding the fence on this, and I want to be able to vote with a clear conscience and know that I voted in the right way. So with that being said, can I get a motion to continue this to the next meeting?
Is that acceptable for the applicant?
Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
How soon are we wanting to find out the applicant is acceptable to the continuance?
I would say our next board meeting, our next regular board meeting. Is that
June 11th would be
June
the next
11th?
regular meeting.
Yeah. We don't want to walk out of here without an approval, so if this...
Well, I understand that, but I won't speak for the others. Is there a motion for that?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. We continue to June 11th. Running Creek Storage, EDZ site plan, EDZ 2024-3548.
Second.
It's a motion and a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. motion
Can I ask a
closed.
question? Will we get anything prior to the hearing that gives us some understanding as to what you guys have received? It's just so we're prepared.
Understood. It's a fair question. Is that something that, Jennifer, that we could share our information that we've received before that meeting?
I'm not sure where that information is coming from, I guess. We can certainly be in communication with the applicant, of course. I'm assuming that you all want to chat with road and bridge staff, county engineers,
Absolutely.
things like that. If we get some type of memo or something like that, we could certainly share that with the applicant, of course.
Is that satisfactory?
As long as we have plenty of time to review it.
Well, it won't be tomorrow. I mean, I could.
The day of doesn't help.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. All right. Is a motion to close this public hearing?
We've continued it. We don't need to close it.
All right. That is correct. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All right. We are adjourned. Thank you.